On August 15, 1978, a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. indicted 11 top leaders of the Church of Scientology for conducting a wide range of illegal activities, including the infiltration, bugging, and burglary of the Justice Department, the IRS, and other federal agencies. After considerable legal maneuvering, during which the Scientologists' primary defense strategy was to force the recusal of every judge assigned to the case, all defendants were finally convicted and imprisoned, including Hubbard's wife, Mary Sue. It was found that the Church of Scientology had been conducting sophisticated intelligence and propaganda operations, not only against government agencies, but also against private organizations and individual critics who were classified as enemies or suppressive persons. According to documents that were seized in Scientology's Los Angeles headquarters on July 8, 1977 by the FBI, the organization had identified a great many such enemies. Especially singled out were those who had been openly critical of Scientology, not only individuals, but also publications, including various newspapers, publishing companies, radio and television stations. Now, Scientology's enemies are subject to dirty tricks, such as calling in anonymous death threats, sending out phony compromising letters on a suppressive person's letterhead, making anonymous phone calls to the IRS, accusing their enemies of cheating on their taxes so that they'll be investigated and the like. There are a great many other dirty tricks. I'm not even going to list them all. They're even worse than those of modern political parties, which are a disgrace. Narconon needs to be mentioned in this respect. It's one of Scientology's fronts and affiliates, because it too has been a battalion in the Scientology wars. In the past few years, some of Narconon's facilities in Italy have been closed by government edict, and staff members arrested on charges ranging from fraud and medical malpractice to criminal conspiracy to extort money and unlawful detention. In 1988, following a 9-month investigation, Spanish authorities charged Narconon with swindling clients and luring them into Scientology. 69 people were arrested, including Heber Jentzsch. He and 2 others were eventually released on $1 million bail while the investigation continued. In December 1991, the state of Oklahoma's Board of Mental Health denied certification to the Narconon Chilocco facility after finding that, quote, there is substantial credible evidence that the Narconon program is unsafe and ineffective, end quote. It, quote, exposes its patients to the risk of delayed withdrawal phenomena such as seizures, delirium, and or hallucinations, end quote. And it restricts access by Narconon clients to their personal physicians, attorneys, clergies, and others, end quote. However, 8 months later, with the usual legal maneuvers, the board was forced to grant Narconon an exemption from the requirement for certification on a technicality because a private organization in another state had certified the Narconon program. And since it's on Indian land, there's a lot of disputation about what the jurisdiction of the state mental health board is. Thus, in North America at this moment, it is still business as usual for Narconon. There are many of these Scientology front organizations that have one way or another been involved in the conflict. I would just like to mention a couple. Sterling Management targets dentists, optometrists, podiatrists, physicians, veterinarians, and other professionals through expensive brochures and attractively packaged seminars. It has been expanding rapidly and recently was ranked among America's fastest growing private companies. It was founded in 1983 by Gregory Hughes, a Scientologist practicing dentistry in Vacaville, California. In his seminars, he doesn't discuss the fact that a number of lawsuits have been brought by former patients against him and his associates, charging them with negligence and malpractice, or that he has been under investigation by the California Board of Dental Examiners. Sterling clients are pressured to discuss their personal lives, and then personal information divulged during auditing sessions has been used later to pressure them into paying additional money. Pressure is also exerted on clients to enroll in Dianetic auditing courses, some of which start at $3,000, to correct the problems inevitably revealed by the personality tests, and to purchase various expensive items. Additional courses can cost as much as $5,000 to $18,000 apiece. An Ohio dentist, Dr. Robert Geary, was typically drawn into Scientology along with his wife through a Sterling management course. During a 5-month period in 1988, the Gearys paid Scientology $200,000 and had some dreadful experiences. They now have gone public. They warn fellow professionals to stay away from Sterling management and the Church of Scientology, describing harms and costs never imagined at the outset. Which brings us to CCHR. The Citizens Commission on Human Rights is one of Scientology's major subsidiaries. It is frequently behind both personal and professional attacks upon members of the medical profession, especially but not limited to those who have publicly criticized the cult. CCHR was established in 1969 and is headed by Dennis Clark, a former salesman. Among its missions is to investigate and publicize, quote, psychiatric violations of human rights, end quote, including the use of any physiological therapies or medications like methylphenidate for children with attention deficit disorder, fluoxetine, which is Prozac, for depression, and indeed almost any biological treatment prescribed by psychiatrists. CCHR encourages parents to file malpractice suits against doctors who prescribe methylphenidate, which is Ritalin, for children. It has supported many such suits, including 5 in 1988 filed in Massachusetts against 6 doctors, but not against the companies that manufacture and give the clinical indications for methylphenidate. They're now using similar techniques, including the sponsorship of a survivor support group, to file fraudulent practice suits against the Psychiatric Institutes of America and its parent organization, National Medical Enterprises, for using these medications in their hospitals. Although the CCHR attempt to force Prozac off the market failed, it did impact sales and the value of the company's stock. La calumnia, it spreads. It included an extensive letter writing campaign to a number of U.S. senators and congressmen. The CCHR literally declared war on Newsweek for running its cover story on Prozac in March 26, issue 1990. Recently, CCHR has conducted blatantly biased data collection procedures to support the so-called Prozac defense in murder trials in which defendants claim their violent behavior was caused by Prozac. For some years, Scientologists organized by the CCHR have staged demonstrations at the time and place of the annual meeting of the American Psychiatric Association to protest psychiatric oppression. Sometimes airplanes fly overhead pulling banners with slogans such as "Psychiatry Kills." Pickets with scurrilous signs and angry chants are common and not unknown to you either. These protests occasionally attract significant media coverage. Individual psychiatrists also may be picketed, defamed, harassed, and subjected to shocking contumely and abuse, as you know. CCHR, however, does some more despicable things than that, and one that grieves me deeply is to recruit former psychiatric patients, many of them still clinically ill, to participate in public demonstrations and attempts to disrupt or discredit psychiatric meetings without reference to what the consequences to their health might be. There are many other fronts School children are primarily targets of some, called Applied Scholastics and Education Alive, offer training and tutoring in Hubbard Study Tech, which attempt to get various Scientology programs into local school systems and sometimes succeed. Applied Scholastics also offers training seminars for businesses. Recently, 3 employees of Applied Materials, a company in Santa Clara, California, received a $600,000 settlement after suing their employer because of problems arising from the Applied Scholastics training courses that they were being forced to take. Well, the Earth Communications Office, ECO, publishes Cry Out, a comic book-like primer that appeals to children's environmental concerns. The Way to Happiness Foundation and the Concerned Businessmen of America, organizations that promote booklets that Hubbard wrote providing rules by which to live. These rules range from a rehash of the Golden Rule to brush your teeth. And there's nothing wrong with that. I believe in that too. But I don't think I would buy an expensive booklet to tell it to me. Fronts organized to fight the Internal Revenue Service, one of the big bugaboos and constant enemies of Scientology, include the Citizens for an Alternative Tax System, or CATS, and the National Coalition of IRS Whistleblowers. Another organization, the Religious Freedom Crusade, was formed to interface with other cults and with mainstream religions as well, in order to oppose any organization or court investigating, attacking, or sitting in judgment against Scientology. And I guess members of CAN know something about the Religious Freedom Crusade. But there are always new organizations. It's very hard to keep one's files up to date in this. 2 recently contrived front groups are the CAN Reform National Committee and Deprogramming Survivors Network. Both are presently undertaking to destroy the Cult Awareness Network, as you probably know, by attacking its leaders and challenging its legality. Apparently, members of the CAN Reform National Committee, all Scientologists, are assigned to join CAN in order to destroy it from within. You have to understand now that the people who are doing this are doing so in a sense that the right is on their side. They believe in what they're doing. And while we can't let them get away with it, we can't necessarily, blame them like you would criminals. Because in a war, each side believes that God is with them. Perhaps, as is so often the case when a totalist society is at war, we fail to appreciate how much harm is done to the citizens of the state itself in the name of the war, justified or rationalized by it. And for all of my iteration here of the nuisances and worse of harassment, the people that I worry about the most are those who are still members of Scientology. There have been a number of studies of such people. It's hard to do any studies until after they come out, of course. But Conway and Siegelman spent 4 years interviewing over 1,000 former cult members. Declared in 1978, Scientology's may be the most debilitating set of rituals of any cult in America. The reports we have seen and heard are replete with allegations of psychological devastation, economic exploitation, and personal and legal harassment of former members. And that was quite a while ago, too. Thus, it appears that even more devastating than the financial losses that can be experienced by people in the cult, can be the emotional and other mental health consequences of Scientology's recruitment and membership experience. The clinical picture of escaping members often meets the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder or dissociative disorder. Whatever the diagnosis, dissociative features are usually prominent, with findings likely to include alterations in the normally integrative functions of identity, memory, and consciousness. Such a disturbance may be sudden or gradual, transient or chronic, immediate or delayed. Features this have been described elsewhere. I'd just like to mention that recently I've been putting increasing emphasis on how dissociative mechanisms play a role in producing a pseudo-identity, which is the different person described by so many bewildered relatives and former friends of cult members. The pseudo-identity is shaped by the demand characteristics of the situation in which the cult member, whether he realizes it or not, is trapped. The clinical picture resembles that of an alternate personality in multiple personality disorders, but it differs in some very fundamental ways, which have implications for both understanding and treatment. But when I found myself in my little contretemps outside the lobby this noon with a young man who was hostile and scornful and nasty to me, I thought to myself, now this is his pseudo-identity I'm facing. I can't tell from this glimpse what he might have liked before, what he's still like inside, and what he could be like again someday. We have to keep that in mind.